I've been driving school buses in rural Pennsylvania for 18 years. 18 years of the same routes, the same stops, the same kids. I know every pothole, every curve, every farmhouse between Millersburg and the valley. I know which kids are troublemakers and which ones are quiet. I know which ones have parents who wave goodbye and which ones have parents who don't. I thought I knew everything about that job. I thought nothing could surprise me anymore. Then came that morning in October, and that child at the back of the bus, and the emergency door that wouldn't stay closed. It was a Thursday. The leaves were just starting to turn, painting the hills in shades of orange and gold. The air was crisp, the kind of crisp that makes you want to roll down the windows and take a deep breath. I was on my morning route, picking up kids from the farms and hollows that dot the countryside. It was a full bus that day. Every seat was taken. 42 kids, ranging from kindergartners to high school seniors. Most of them were quiet, staring at their phones or out the windows. A few were chatting with their friends. The usual morning chaos. I pulled up to the last stop on my route, a gravel driveway that led to an old farmhouse at the top of a hill. A little boy got on. He was maybe 8 years old, blonde hair, freckles, wearing a too big jacket that looked like it had been handed down a few times. He climbed the steps slowly, his eyes fixed on the floor. He didn't look at me. He didn't say good morning. He just walked to the very back of the bus and sat down in the last seat, right next to the emergency exit. I remember thinking that was odd. Most kids don't want to sit in the back. They want to be closer to the front, closer to the door, closer to freedom. But this kid wanted to be as far away as possible. I shrugged it off. Kids are weird. That's just a fact of life. I closed the doors and pulled away. The first 20 minutes of the drive were normal. The kids were chatting, laughing, doing whatever kids do. I was focused on the road, watching for deer, watching for the occasional tractor that might pull out from a field. The sun was rising over the hills, casting long shadows across the asphalt. It was a beautiful morning, a perfect morning. Then I heard it. A loud clang, the sound of metal swinging open. I looked in my rearview mirror. The emergency exit at the back of the bus was wide open. The door was swinging freely, bouncing against the side of the bus. The little boy who had sat down back there was standing in front of it, his hand still on the handle. I slammed on the brakes. The bus lurched to a stop. The kids all jolted forward in their seats. I stood up and turned around. I yelled, "Hey, you! Close that door right now! What do you think you're doing?" The little boy didn't flinch. He didn't look scared. He didn't look sorry. He just stood there, staring at me with pale blue eyes. His hand was still on the handle. The emergency door was still open, letting in the cold October air. I walked down the aisle, past the rows of curious faces. I was angry. That emergency exit was for emergencies only. Opening it while the bus was moving was dangerous. It could have caused an accident. It could have hurt someone. I was going to give that kid a piece of my mind. When I got to the back, I grabbed the door and pulled it closed. I latched it tight. I turned to the boy and said, "What is wrong with you? You don't open that door. That's for emergencies. You could have gotten someone hurt. What were you thinking?" The boy looked up at me. His eyes were pale blue, too pale, like the sky in winter. He said, "There's a man on the roof." I blinked. I said, "What?" He said it again. "There's a man on the roof." He was standing on the roof. He was looking in the window. That's why I opened the door. I wanted to see him better. I felt a chill run down my spine. I looked out the emergency exit window. The roof of the bus was visible from the window. I could see the yellow metal, the rivets, the slight curve. There was no one there, just the roof, just the sky, just the trees passing by in the background. I turned back to the boy. I said, "There's no one on the roof. That's impossible. The bus was moving. No one can stand on the roof of a moving bus." He said, "He wasn't standing. He was lying down. He was holding on. He was looking at me. He wanted me to open the door. So I did." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, staring at this weird little kid with his two pale eyes and his too big jacket. I was about to tell him to sit down and buckle up when I noticed something. The other kids on the bus were looking at us. All of them, every single one. They had turned in their seats and were staring at me. But they weren't just looking, they were staring, with the exact same expression, blank, empty, unblinking. Their eyes were wide open, their faces were completely still. It was like looking at a row of mannequins. Perfectly identical expressions, perfectly identical stillness. Not a single one of them moved, not a single one of them blinked. The little boy spoke again. His voice was flat, monotone. He said, "You should look again. He's on the roof now. He's coming through the emergency door. Look." I turned around. The emergency door was open, wide open. I had just closed it. I had latched it. I had made sure it was secure. It was open again, swinging freely in the wind. And then I saw it. A hand, a pale, thin hand. It was reaching through the open door, gripping the edge of the frame. The fingers were long, too long. The skin was white, almost translucent. The nails were dark, almost black. The hand was reaching inside, searching, grasping, like it was looking for something or someone. I stumbled backward. I tripped over a seat and fell hard on my backside. The kids all turned their heads to look at me, all at once, in perfect unison. 42 heads turning at the exact same moment. 42 pairs of eyes staring at me. 42 voices speaking in perfect unison. They said, "He's coming. He's coming through the emergency door. He's coming for you." The hand reached further inside. I could see an arm now, thin, pale, covered in a dark, tattered sleeve. The arm was reaching towards me. The fingers were curling, stretching, grasping. I scrambled to my feet. I ran towards the front of the bus. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see what was coming through that door. I just ran. I dove into the driver's seat and slammed the doors closed. I put the bus in gear and floored it. The engine roared. The bus lurched forward. I drove as fast as I could, swerving around corners, ignoring the stop signs. I didn't care. I just wanted to get away. I wanted to get those kids to school. I wanted to get them out of that bus. But when I looked in my rearview mirror, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The kids were all standing up. Every single one of them. They were standing in the aisle, facing the back of the bus. They were looking at the emergency door. The door was still open. The hand was still there. The arm was still reaching inside. And now a head was appearing, a pale, gaunt head, dark hair, dark eyes, a mouth that was open in a silent scream. The kids started to walk, slowly, in perfect unison. 42 kids walking down the aisle towards the back of the bus, towards the emergency door, towards the thing that was reaching inside. I screamed at them to stop. I screamed at them to sit down. I screamed at them to do anything, but they didn't listen. They just kept walking, slowly, deliberately, in perfect unison. I slammed on the brakes. The bus skidded to a stop. The kids all stumbled forward, but they didn't fall. They just kept walking. They reached the back of the bus. They formed a circle around the emergency door. They watched as the pale figure pulled itself inside. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just sat there, frozen in terror, watching as the thing climbed through the emergency door and stood up. It was tall, gaunt. Its skin was gray. Its eyes were black. Its clothes were tattered, like they had been buried for years. It looked at the children. It smiled, a slow, terrible smile. Then it turned and looked at me. The kids all spoke at once, in perfect unison. They said, "He's here now. He's one of us. He's going to ride with us. He's going to stay with us. Forever." The pale thing started walking towards me, down the aisle, past the rows of empty seats, past the children who were now sitting down again, past the little boy with the pale blue eyes who had opened the door in the first place. It walked up to the front of the bus. It stood next to my seat. It leaned down and whispered in my ear. Its breath was cold, colder than the October air. It said, "You looked. You saw me. Now I'm here. I'm going to stay. I'm going to ride with you every day, forever." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just sat there, shaking, tears streaming down my face. It walked to the front door. It opened the door. It stepped down the stairs and walked away. Onto the sidewalk, into the school parking lot. And it vanished. Just disappeared. Like it was never there. The kids all got off the bus, one by one. They didn't look at me. They didn't say goodbye. They just got off and walked to school like nothing had happened. The last one off was the little boy with the pale blue eyes. He stopped at the front door. He looked at me. He said, "He'll be back tomorrow. He likes riding with us. He likes watching you. He says you have a nice face. He wants to wear it." Then he got off the bus and walked away. I sat there for a long time, just sat there, staring at the empty seats. The emergency door was closed now, latched, secure, like nothing had happened. I drove back to the depot. I told my supervisor I was sick. I went home. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that pale hand reaching through the door. I kept hearing the children's voices in unison. I kept feeling that cold breath on my ear. I thought about quitting. I thought about moving away. I thought about never driving a bus again. But I couldn't. I had a family. I had bills. I had responsibilities. So I went back to work the next day. I convinced myself it was a hallucination, a trick of the light, a stress-induced breakdown. I convinced myself it wasn't real. I was wrong. The next morning, the kids got on the bus. The same kids, same faces, but there was something different about them. They were all smiling, all of them. The same smile, too wide, too knowing. And they were all looking at the back of the bus, at the emergency door. The little boy with the pale blue eyes got on last. He walked down the aisle. He sat in the back seat. He looked at me and said, "He's on the roof again. He wants you to open the door. He says it's time." I didn't look. I didn't want to see. I just drove. I drove as fast as I could, praying that nothing would happen. But I heard it. The clang of the emergency door opening. I looked in my rearview mirror. The door was swinging wide. The hand was reaching inside, and the kids were all standing up, all at once, walking towards the back, in perfect unison. I slammed on the brakes. I turned around. I screamed. I screamed for them to stop. But they didn't stop. They just kept walking, and the hand kept reaching, further and further, closer and closer, until it was almost at the front of the bus, almost at me. I threw open the driver's door. I jumped out of the bus. I ran. I didn't look back. I just ran. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I collapsed on the side of the road, gasping for breath. When I finally looked back, the bus was gone. Just gone. Like it had never been there. No tire marks, no tracks, nothing. Just the empty road. I never saw that bus again. I never saw those kids again. I never saw that pale hand again. But here's the thing that I can't explain. The thing that haunts me to this day. Last week, I was driving my car to the grocery store. I was on the same road, the same stretch of highway where the bus disappeared. I was alone. It was early morning. The sun was rising. The leaves were turning. And then I heard it. A clang, the sound of metal swinging open. I looked in my rearview mirror. The back door of my car was wide open, swinging freely. And in my back seat, sitting perfectly still, was a shape, a tall, gaunt shape with pale skin and dark eyes. It was smiling. It was watching me. It leaned forward. It whispered in my ear. Its breath was cold, colder than the October air. It said, "I found you. I always find you. You can't run. You can't hide. I'm on the roof. I'm in the back seat. I'm everywhere, and I'm never leaving." I slammed on the brakes. I jumped out of the car. I ran. I ran until I couldn't run anymore. But when I got home, the shape was there, sitting in my living room, in my favorite chair, smiling, watching. It said, "You looked. You saw me. Now I'm here. I'm going to stay forever." I'm writing this down because I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything. I've gone to churches. I've talked to priests. I've burned sage. I've done everything I can think of. But nothing works. The shape is always there. Always watching. Always waiting. I see it in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth. I see it in the window when I'm driving. I see it in the shadows at the foot of my bed. It's always there, always smiling, always reaching for me. And I know it's only a matter of time before it gets me. Before I'm the one on the roof. Before I'm the one reaching through the emergency door. Before I'm the one who rides the bus forever. If you're reading this, if you ever drive a school bus, if you ever hear a child say, "There's a man on the roof," don't look. Don't open the door. Don't let him in. Just drive. Drive as fast as you can. And never, ever look back, because once you see him, he sees you. And once he sees you, he never leaves. He just waits and watches and reaches. I can hear the emergency door opening again. It's in my bedroom now. I can hear the clang. I can hear the hand reaching. I have to go. I have to face him. I have to accept my fate. If you find this, please tell my family I loved them. Tell them I'm sorry I couldn't save myself. And whatever you do, don't look in the back seat. He's there. He's always there. Goodbye.